In this video, we're going to be looking at the basics of variables. We're going to be looking at a very simple view of what a variable is and how we use basic variables. We have inside a computer a device known as RAM, or Random Access Memory. This device is incredibly important. It allows us to store our currently running applications. So what I mean by this is any programs you currently have running on the system. For example, you might have Microsoft Word running, a music player, or any other application. You will also have inside RAM any data you currently have in use. This might be, for example, any Word documents you have open. So you have an application running, Microsoft Word, and a Word document that you're editing the data. This is the same for any program that runs on your computer. There'll be some values stored in RAM that it uses as it is running the program. We store this information using variables. Let's look at a variable a bit more closely. At the moment on the screen, I have a variable x equals 5. A variable allows us to store a single value. In this example, I'm storing the value of 5. That variable can then be used in my program once it's been created. That variable can be used multiple times, it can have its value changed, and that variable can be used as part of a larger calculation. A variable will have an identifier, which is another way of saying its name. The identifier in the program I have on the screen at the moment is x. Once a variable is created, it will be stored in RAM. So that will become the currently in use data, as explained on the previous slide. Identifiers are names of your variables. In order to get your program working correctly, each variable must have a different name. So for example, on the code you're seeing at the moment, I have 3 variable names, x, y, and z. Each one is different and is used differently. These identifiers, these names, can be longer than one letter and should be descriptive. The example on the screen, my variable, is clearly longer than one letter. You should try and make your variables describe what they're storing. Variables can store numbers, but they can also store text. When we refer to numbers, we refer to them as integers, and when we refer to text, we refer to them as strings. The example at the moment is showing 2 strings being put together and displayed on the screen. Variables can be used as part of other calculations, and they must be given a value before we can use them. In this example, I've got a variable x which is being given the value of 20, and I'm adding x plus 2. So I'm getting the values of 20 and 22 respectively. If I'm trying to use a variable which has not been defined, then I get the following error saying O is not defined. If I then give O a value, for example, the text now defined, and then I print out again, you can see it works perfectly. You will get the error not defined if you don't assign a value or give a value to a variable before using it. So any variables you've created before, for example, we have already created x, y, and z, will work perfectly as long as they have values. Assignment is used to give a value to a variable. We use the equal sign for assignment, and we give it a special name, assignment, to make it nice and clear what it is doing. We call it assignment and not equals. The reason for this is because the variable must always be written on the left hand side. In maths, we can swap those around. So 5 equals x is just as valid as x equals 5 in maths. In computer science, in programming, that is not the case because it's not equals, it is assignment. This is something that can be quite confusing for beginner programmers. So on the screen we can see two examples of variables, x equals 5 and 9 equals y. The code on the left hand side is correct because the variable is on the left. The code on the right is wrong because the variable is on the right. So in order to fix the one on the right, we'd have to write y equals 9, not 9 equals y. Now it's time for a practice. Here is some code that you can type into Python. If you wish to, you can simply copy this from the description in this YouTube video. Change the variables so they have your name, your age, and your favourite hobby. The output should look a bit like what I have on the screen. So here it says your name is Mr. H, age is 21, hobby is coding. Yours will say your name, your age, your hobby. Add a fourth variable which will show your favourite artist. It should follow the same pattern as you can see on the screen. The output should be similar to what I have on the screen down here. So here, that I've just kind of circled, is what your output should look like. But obviously it will say your favourite band instead of mine. A challenge question. On the screen, I have another bit of code. Food equals pizza, print my favourite food is, pizza. When run, this program gives an error, saying name error, pizza is not defined. What is this error? What's wrong with it? What causes this? And how could you fix it? This is a very common error for beginner programmers, so it's important to know how to fix it. In this video, I did describe what not defined means. So have another look through this video if you're not sure and have a go.